Imagine this, it's 2026, and the world teeters on the brink of catastrophe. Tensions between the United States and Iran have escalated beyond diplomacy. Missiles streak across the Persian Gulf, cyber attacks cripple power grids, and alliances fracture like glass under pressure. What if World War II's epic battles weren't fought with tanks and bombers in Europe and the Pacific, but with drones, hypersonic missiles, and AI-driven warfare in the Middle East? Picture the U.S. Navy's carrier strike groups clashing with Iran's swarm of stealthy submarines, while hackers from both sides wage invisible wars in the digital shadows. Could this be the spark that ignites a modern global conflict? With Iran's nuclear ambitions, U.S. sanctions biting deep, and proxy wars raging in Yemen and Syria, experts warn that a full-scale war could erupt any day. But how would America fight it? In this video, we'll dive into a chilling hypothetical. If World War II happened today, how the U.S. would battle Iran. Buckle up, this isn't just history, it's a roadmap to a potential future that keeps world leaders awake at night. We'll explore the strategies, technologies, and stakes that could reshape our world forever. And trust me, by the end, you'll see why avoiding this nightmare is more urgent than ever. Let's rewind to World War II for context, because history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Back in 1941, Iran, then called Persia, was a neutral nation caught in the crossfire of global powers. The Allies, Britain and the Soviet Union, invaded to secure oil supplies and create a vital supply route to the USSR, known as the Persian Corridor. The U.S. wasn't directly invading, but through the Lend-Lease Act, American aid flowed through Iran, propping up the war effort against Nazi Germany. Fast forward to today, Iran sits at the crossroads of energy, ideology, and empire. With control over the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes, any conflict here could send gas prices skyrocketing to $10 a gallon overnight, crippling economies from New York to Tokyo. In our hypothetical scenario, the spark ignites much like Pearl Harbor did for World War II, a surprise Iranian attack on U.S. assets. Maybe it's a drone swarm targeting American bases in the Gulf, or a cyber assault shutting down Wall Street for days. Iran's leaders, facing internal unrest and economic strangulation from sanctions, decide to go all in. The U.S. response? Immediate and overwhelming, drawing parallels to WWII's rapid mobilization. President, hypothetical current leader, addresses the nation. This is our generation's fight for freedom. Congress passes a modern war powers resolution in hours, unlocking trillions in defense spending. First, the U.S. would leverage its unparalleled intelligence network. Think NSA surveillance on steroids, satellites tracking every Iranian missile silo, AI algorithms predicting launches before they happen. In World War II, codebreakers like those at Bletchley Park cracked Enigma. Today, quantum computing could decrypt Iran's communications in real time. The CIA and Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, a key ally, would coordinate covert ops, infiltrating Tehran's regime with spies or even assassinating key figures via precision drones, echoing the OSS sabotage missions in occupied Europe. Militarily, the opening salvos would focus on air superiority, much like the Battle of Britain. The U.S. Air Force's F-35 stealth fighters, invisible to radar, would launch from bases in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, pounding Iran's air defenses. Imagine swarms of loyal wingman drones, unmanned AI companions, overwhelming Iran's S-300 systems, bought from Russia. In World War II, the Allies bombed German factories. Here, U.S.B-2 bombers would target Iran's underground nuclear facilities at Natanz and Fordow, using bunkerbusters that penetrate hundreds of feet of rock. But Iran isn't helpless. They've got hypersonic missiles like the Fatah, capable of Mach 5 speeds, dodging U.S. defenses and threatening aircraft carriers. Naval warfare would be the game changer. The Persian Gulf becomes this era's Pacific theater. U.S. carrier groups, like the USS Abraham Lincoln, steam in with Aegis destroyers forming an impenetrable shield. In World War II, battleships ruled. Today, it's submarines and anti-ship missiles. Iran boasts the world's largest fleet of mini-subs and speedboats, perfect for asymmetric warfare, swarming tactics that could sink a billion-dollar carrier like Hornets, overwhelming a bear. The U.S. counters with Virginia-class subs, silently hunting Iranian vessels, and laser weapons like the Helios system zapping incoming threats at the speed of light. Alliances amplify the drama. Just as in World War II, the US rallies a coalition. NATO invokes Article 5 if Europe feels threatened by disrupted oil flows. Israel joins strikes on Iranian proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon, turning the conflict regional. Saudi Arabia provides bases, echoing Britain's role in the original Persian invasion. But here's the twist. China and Russia back Iran covertly, supplying drones and jamming tech, much like how the Axis powers supported each other. A US-led blockade of the Strait of Hormuz mirrors WWII's Atlantic convoys, but with autonomous ships dodging mines. Economically, this war would be a cyber blitzkrieg. In World War II, the US outproduced enemies with factories. Today, it's about disrupting supply chains. US hackers from Cyber Command could crash Iran's banking system, causing hyperinflation overnight. Iran retaliates by targeting US infrastructure, power grids, water supplies, leading to blackouts in major cities. Remember the 2021 Colonial Pipeline hack? Multiply that by 1,000. Global markets plunge. Bitcoin surges as a safe haven. The human element adds heart-pounding tension. US troops, Marines and Special Forces, deploy for ground ops, securing key oil fields like WWII's North African campaigns. But Iran mobilizes millions through its Revolutionary Guard, using guerrilla tactics in rugged mountains. Drones spot targets, but boots on the ground face IEDs and ambushes. Casualties mount, fueling anti-war protests back home, reminiscent of Vietnam but amplified by TikTok and Twitter. As the conflict escalates, the world watches in horror. Could this draw in nuclear powers? Iran's program is close to breakout. A desperate Tehran might test a device, forcing US preemption. The stakes? A radioactive Middle East, refugee crises dwarfing Syria's, and climate chaos from burning oil wells. But hold on, we're just getting started. What happens when the US pushes deeper into Iranian territory? Let's dive into the heart of the battle. Transitioning seamlessly from the initial strikes, the war enters its grinding phase, where technology and strategy decide victors, much like WWI's island hopping in the Pacific or the brutal Eastern Front. The US shifts to sustained operations, aiming to dismantle Iran's command structure without a full invasion, avoiding the quagmires of Iraq and Afghanistan. Cyber dominance becomes the invisible front line. In World War II, radar won the skies. Today, AI wins the info war. US systems like Project Maven use machine learning to analyze drone footage, identifying Iranian troop movements faster than humans. Iran counters with its own cyber units, hacking US satellites or spreading deepfake propaganda. Fake videos of American atrocities going viral, eroding public support. Imagine scrolling Instagram and seeing AI-generated clips of US bombs hitting Tehran hospitals. Fact-checkers scramble, but the damage is done. Air campaigns intensify. The US deploys hypersonic weapons like the ARRW, Air-Launched Rapid Response Weapon, outpacing Iran's defenses. Strikes hit ballistic missile sites in the Zagros Mountains, echoing Allied bombings of V-2 rocket bases. But Iran unleashes its arsenal. Thousands of missiles raining on Israel and US allies, overwhelming Iron Dome systems. Casualties in Tel Aviv spark global outrage, pulling more nations in. Naval battles rage in the Gulf. US carriers launch F/A-18 Super Hornets for close air support, while Iran's Kilo-class subs lurk beneath. A pivotal moment, an Iranian sub torpedoes a US destroyer, sinking it in minutes, the first major naval loss since World War II. The response? Operation Neptune's Fury, a massive anti-sub hunt using sonar buoys and underwater drones. Echoing midway, US codebreakers decrypt Iranian fleet orders, ambushing their navy in the strait. Ground forces enter the fray selectively. US Marines seize Iranian islands like Abu Musa, securing choke points. Special ops teams, SEALs and Delta Force, conduct raids on nuclear labs, extracting scientists or sabotaging centrifuges. Iran's terrain favors defenders. Caves and tunnels hide weapons, turning fights into deadly cat-and-mouse games. Drones like the MQ-9 Reaper provide overwatch, but jamming tech neutralizes them, forcing old-school infantry tactics. Logistics mirror WWII's Persian corridor but reversed. The U.S. airlifts supplies via C-17 Globemasters to forward bases, while Iran disrupts with anti-air missiles. Allies like the UAE host logistics hubs, pumping in fuel and ammo. Economic warfare escalates. U.S. freezes Iranian assets worldwide, but Tehran mines the Gulf, halting tankers and spiking oil to $200 a barrel. Global recession hits, stock markets crash, unemployment soars. Proxy wars explode regionally. Hezbollah launches rockets from Lebanon, U.S.-backed Kurds in Syria push back Iranian militias. Yemen's Houthis target Saudi refineries with drones, drawing parallels to WWII's African theater. Israel conducts independent strikes, risking escalation with Russia if Syrian bases are hit. Technological wildcards tip scales. U.S. deploys directed energy weapons, lasers melting incoming missiles mid-flight. Iran uses swarms of cheap Shahid drones, overwhelming defenses like kamikaze attacks in World War II. Space becomes a battlefield. Anti-satellite weapons blind GPS, forcing pilots to navigate by stars. Human stories fuel virality. Heroic tales of U.S. pilots evading SAMs, or Iranian civilians enduring sanctions. Social media amplifies, #US-Iran war trends, with influencers debating outcomes. Polls show divided America. Hawks demand victory, doves fear endless war. As months drag on, turning points emerge. A U.S.-led cyber op shuts down Iran's power grid, blacking out Tehran for weeks, echoing WWII's D-Day prep. Iran sues for talks, but hardliners refuse. The U.S. prepares for regime change, airdropping leaflets urging defection. But what if nukes enter the equation? The world holds its breath as we head toward resolution.